Do you feel like you took a wrong turn in life? Welcome to Tomorrow's Motivations, where we talk with people who educate, motivate, and captivate you with inspirational stories. Here's Dontrell.
All right, Parker, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing, my friend?
Doing really good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, anytime. I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to come and do the interview. And I know, especially right now down there with the housing market being, at a good, interesting time right now, that you'll probably be having people flooding your doors here pretty soon, right?
Yeah, it's still coming in huge waves. People need a place to live, so that's not changed at all.
Most definitely. Same where I'm at too in my location. So I want to just first off say, I think it's so awesome when I look at your overall story and what you've been able to achieve this far at this point in your life, how you've managed to really do that with, a good mindset, a good focus, and really being able to use the power of a good optimist attitude to overcome your challenges. So just starting off a little bit, I wanted to ask you, how do you personally define success?
That's a great question, Dontrell. I think that success comes from within. I don't feel as though there's a bar. When you get to a certain point, then you've succeeded in life. I think success is a journey. I think, in my own opinion, I feel as though right now I'm successful with where I'm particularly at. So there's 35 agents that work at Edge Homes. I'm one of them, right? That is Edge Homes in Utah. 35 of us. And I've found that the less that I compare myself to other agents and wherever they're at, if they've sold 60 homes this year or whether they've sold 2 homes this year, or anything in between, I feel as though I can be more successful if I just focus on myself and focus on my own goals and the things that I've set for me. And I think that can be applied not only in my sphere, but in anyone's sphere. I think that setting realistic goals that are achievable, but still push you, when you do that, I feel like when you accomplish those things, you'll feel successful. And not only just in a workplace setting, but in other aspects of your life too, whether it's, intelligence wise, or it could be emotional, or like emotional stability, or physical. That's another one too, going to like the gym. Or I think that everybody thinks that in order to be physically fit, you have to go to the gym. And I don't feel that either. I feel as though you can go on walks, or you can ride a bike, or go hiking, or do other sports. It doesn't necessarily need to be pumping iron in order to be able to get fit or anything like that. So anyways, going back to your question, how do you define success? I define success when I set a goal for myself, and when I come to achieve it, whatever that time frame is. And sometimes it's outside of the time frame that I originally thought, but when I do achieve that, I feel successful. And whatever kind of goal it is, like I said, in any facet of my life, when I come to see that come to fruition, that's when I feel successful.
That's amazing. And you yourself, being a young man, how old are you currently?
31.
You're 31.
31.
So
yeah.
Still a young guy.
Yep.
How long did it take you to, like, that you recognize in your own life and looking back, how long did it take you to develop that mindset to look at life that way? Because there's a lot of people who really don't necessarily look at things in a clear paradigm in that certain way.
Yeah, I totally understand. I think that it's been a journey for sure. I feel as though if you look at me 10 years ago, back in 2010, right? So I was 21 years old, didn't really kind of know what I was doing with my life. I served an LDS mission, so I was on a mission at that time, and just focusing on the responsibilities that I had. And then coming home and going to college and, eventually getting a job, right? A full-time job, and then coming into real estate. Like, I just feel like over time, there was just things that were given to me, and I just came to the knowledge of it eventually. But if you were to ask me the stuff that I know now, did I know any of it back in 10 years ago, I would say I knew maybe some of it, but probably not the vast majority. I feel like the longer that time goes, if you really are studying and trying to make yourself better, I feel like you exponentially get better. And so the curve is not necessarily like a straight line up, but it's more like it curves up like a slope, if that makes sense. And so the more that you practice, you just exponentially get way better. For me, in that how I came to realize the things that I know now, be it financially or in real estate or in relationships. I feel like if you ask me relationship questions pertaining to me now, it'd be a different answer than what it was 10 years ago. And that's just comes from life experience. And so I guess the recommendation, if you're asking for that for anybody that's listening, is to just take it a step at a time. Don't compare yourself again to others and where they're at. Because if you do, you'll find yourself having anxiety and having like self-doubt. And those types of things hurt your mindset, which is your mind's the most powerful thing that you have as far as the thing that God's given you to accomplish whatever you want to accomplish in life. And so like if I compared myself to, we'll just say Warren Buffett, for instance, like multi-billionaire, the guy is over double my age though. Right. But he had different opportunities and he did different things in his life, even when he was my age. Right. But I don't need to compare myself to Warren Buffett because Warren Buffett's Warren Buffett. He does whatever he wants in his life and he's accomplished things that he feels are the most important to him. But Parker Eads has things that I want to accomplish that not necessarily are Warren Buffett. I actually have no desire to be a billionaire. No desire, actually. I feel as though there's way too much publicity with it. There's more tax obligations. There's more. There's just a ton more. And I don't really know how much time that man spends with his family. I couldn't tell you, honestly, because I haven't studied it that much. But for me, for Parker Eads, I want to be in a spot where I am comfortable, but I can spend time with my family. And I think a lot of people want that, right? They want, in my mind, it's financial freedom, right? The ability to not have to work if you don't want to and still be able to maintain a lifestyle for the rest of your life. And that's kind of like where my goal is at. And so to the young viewers or anybody that's listening, I think that you just need to figure out, what do you want out of life? What's the main purpose of why you're here? And go chase that. And until you achieve it, keep going, keep chasing it, and eventually you'll find it.
Parker, I can honestly say you are truly a one in a million, because there are not a lot of people who would say that they have no desire to be a billionaire, especially in the financial times that we live in and in some of the uncertainty. So that even in itself takes you into a whole new equation when it comes to being a millennial and, one who I believe honestly has a good perspective of what's most important in life. You mentioned family. And you mentioned that important notion of patience, really just trying to be patient with yourself and trying to explore and really find what your purpose is, what your individual purpose is on this earth. And that is an amazing gift. And I hope you really see that for what it is, what you have.
Well, let me ask you this. If you had $1 billion, what would you do?
Honestly, me personally, I would probably help as many people as I can. And I'm not being facetious when I say it. I actually have been one to write out, if I ever had any kind of financial success in my life, the specific people that I would help, how I would help them specifically. I would spend the majority of my time serving and just doing that kind of what I feel my purpose is, telling people stories like I'm doing today. That would be beneficial and I think would be fully satisfying for me, just to have the freedom to do that and not have to worry about being limited in how I'm able to help. Versus now, I feel like, there's more limits that are put on because of not having the full financial freedom or unlimited opportunities that would bring. But like you I still do what I can, and I still am satisfied for the space and the place that I'm in now. And I'm patient. I'm patiently hoping that as I continue to do my work and try to do the best that I can, that I will eventually be put in a position where I can at least see at least some portion of that desire I have fulfilled on earth. And if not, then fortunately, we know that there's more even after this life that's good and that you can hope for. Hopefully that answered that question. I wasn't expecting that. That's awesome.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm always curious as to what people would do with money if they had an unlimited amount of money. What would you do? And a lot of times people say, yeah, I want to help people. But are you not helping people now?
I do what I feel like I can with the capacity that I have. So I would say I feel like I do.
It would just be probably on a bigger scale, maybe.
Right.
You'd probably see. Yeah.
Right. I think I think for me, that would be like what success would be defined for me was just, how many people I would be able to help and serve in the ways that it would be the most beneficial to them. Mm-hmm. And so that's true. And with yourself, you've been that way. I know we've had the pleasure of knowing each other. My goodness, I want to say it's been at least 8 years. Forgive me, because I swear the older I get, the time starts meshing together. But I know it's at least been 8 years, maybe 9. Yeah. And during that time period, even before we actually got introduced and met one-on-one in college and our university, I heard stories about you just because of us having the same similar path and serving the mission that we served for our church. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing just because of like the life that you lead, that example that you leave behind, it's always there. And so your example really preceded you to us meeting because it was one of like upliftment and hope and just good energy, good vibes. And when we actually met, it was a time where I was able to see that on my own. And really appreciated having that brothership and that forming that friendship and stuff with you. But then something during that same time period happened that really took my respect level of you to an even greater height than it was before because of a specific trial that you had happened to you during that time and that you overcame. And I wondered if you would be willing just to kind of share a little bit of that and how you were able to turn what some would have seen as a tragedy and as completely unfair, how you turned that to saying, I'm not going to let it define me.
Yeah, no. So I'll give the synopsis of the situation, and then I'll answer your question of what you said as well. So I got in a motorcycle accident in 2011, September of 2011 to be exact. That, like you said, it was unfair, and it changed my life. Just being plain and simple. But I think it changed it in a lot of good ways. There obviously was some ways that could be viewed as not so good, could be viewed as a hardship. But I think in the long run, I feel as though it was necessary for me to have that in order for me to learn, to become who I want to become someday and who I'm still trying to become. So the accident happened on UVU campus. I was on a motorcycle, a Honda Shadow 600, nothing special or anything like that. And I was on my way to class. And as I'm coming through an intersection that was at the top of UVU campus on the east side, next to the soccer fields, I came through the intersection and this maintenance truck, he was like in an F-150 or something like that, was coming the opposite direction of me. And as I entered, he turned left. And so his bumper actually hit the left side of me, particularly my leg, and pretty much annihilated it, right? It was a bad case of Humpty Dumpty, to be honest with you. So all of my bones in my leg were crushed into several pieces. They rushed me to the Provo Hospital, which they at that time could not handle the severity of the accident. So then they life-flighted me to IMC in Murray, where the orthopedic surgeon, as well as other vascular surgeons and other personnel at the time, tried for probably a good 12 hours, I think, if if my memory serves correct, to try to save my life. One, because there's major arteries that go down that leg and in your leg, if you've ever studied anatomy. And two, try to save the leg, right? I mean, first thing is make sure he doesn't die, and second thing, make sure we can maybe save a limb.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So fast forward a little bit. Well, my parents, let me kind of give a little caveat. The doctor came to them after me being in surgery, and I think it was like 1:00 in the morning. This happened at about 1 p.m. in the afternoon, something like that. And he asked them if we could amputate the leg. And actually, it wasn't 1 a.m. in the morning. It was more like, I think 11 or something like that. And then he still went back in surgery. And my parents were very caring, because the doctor, I don't know if anybody's ever been faced with a doctor who has a medical degree, right? And my parents, they have education, but it's not a doctor. The doctor says we need to amputate. My parents, they said, well, we want that to be his decision. We want you to try to save it if you can. So he goes back, and eventually he, pieces it together to a point where at least it'll be fine, right? For a little bit. Fast forward 3 months, 3.5 months, 10, 11 surgeries, and lots of physical therapy later. I got an infection, and I ended up having to amputate my leg. That was tough. I'm not going to lie. That was tough. I think the thing that helped me the most, though, was that time. Now 3 months is not long by any means, but during that time of being confined to my house, I can't walk, and I can't go to school, and I can't have a job, and I can't do anything pretty much. I'm just laying in bed. It gives you a lot of time to think, right? How is my life going to be if I keep this? How is my life going to be if I don't? I was grateful for that time, because I came to the knowledge that my life is going to be better if I don't have this. I don't have this leg, because it was sick. I would have had a drop foot. I would have had to have an orthopedic brace. I would have walked with a considerable limp. There was no guarantee that I wouldn't have to have pain meds for the rest of my life because of it. There was no guarantee that actually I could keep the leg. There was no guarantees about anything, but there was a guarantee if I amputated my leg that potentially my quality of my life would be better. Now, some doctors will disagree with that, and that's okay. But I think the thing that helped me out the most was that during that time, I was pretty close to the Heavenly Father, and I prayed a considerable amount, and I felt that was the right decision. And I've never looked back on it. After my leg was amputated, and I kind of had to go through that whole process of getting a prosthetic and trying to learn to walk again and try to get back to some kind of a normal life, never regretted it. It was the right decision. Still is today. If you were to ask me if I would go back and if I would try to save it, I wouldn't. I would have done the same thing again and again. So I think that with trials, I don't know. It's tough to put it into words, but I guess the best thing that I can do is says easy, does hard. It's easy to say something. It's not as easy to do it. But after you do it, it eventually becomes easy. Like if you were to ask me, was that the hardest thing in my whole life that I had to accomplish? I would tell you no, it wasn't. There's many other things that have been, in my opinion, 10 times harder for me personally and emotionally. But that's still a hard part. And it doesn't define me because I don't let it. And even the other trials that I've had, past that point, in the past 11 years since that's happened, or 8 years, sorry, I'm doing math wrong. Those things don't define me either. But I feel as though with time, all wounds can be healed if you let it. So
absolutely.
Hopefully that answers your question.
Oh,
I know
my goodness.
It was kind of in a little bit of a roundabout way, but I was trying to, give the gist of it. So
no, thank you. Thank you for putting that into context. And no, that really does answer the question. It's amazing to see that even in your young life, having gone through that being a huge, huge change that a lot of young people or anyone really wouldn't necessarily look at that so optimistically or really determine as quickly as you did within 3 months to say, okay, if this is how it's going to be, this is what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. And that's, again, that's a gift. And that's a testament to just your strength and your ability to choose that and to want that for yourself. As you look forward and now living your life today, you feel like you have reached this level right now in this current time period where you have the success that you are looking for and that you're continuing to grow and to learn as life's experiences continue to happen. What personal examples do you feel like you've had in your life that have navigated you down the path to your current career and kind of contributed to you continuing to have the positive outlook that you have?
So individuals basically that have affected me in this trajectory of path. Okay, just making sure I understood the question. I think that there are a countless number, too many to number, because there's individuals that affect your life in small ways and ones that affect it in big ways. But even the small ways, I feel like those can compound later to affect you in a big way, if that makes any sense. For instance, I had a companion on my mission. I'm not going to tell you his name, but we didn't get along. Not at all. We butted heads a lot. And
which is normal in that.
And it's normal. Yeah. It was tough. It was tough for both of us. And because we just didn't see eye to eye. And it was mostly because of pride, let's be honest. And I was a prideful person. I'm still working on it, still trying to become more humble and patient. But I reflect back on that small time that I was with him, which was a matter of a couple months maybe. And the lessons that I learned from that small amount of time actually has helped me in my marriage with my spouse. And that's just one instance, right? There's other instances too that I'll give you another small instance, because I'd rather give you small ones, because most of the time I feel as though people think of the big ones, which is great. And I want to give them credit too, not discrediting them in any way. But there was another one when I was a teaching assistant. When I came home from my mission, for a short amount of time, I was a teaching assistant at a school. And the teacher that I was with was very, very patient with children. And I wasn't in the slightest. I was knock them in line and make sure that they, did exactly. And we're talking about sixth graders, by the way. I was, 12-year-old kids, right? Where they're still trying to figure out who they are and who they want to be. And they will for the next, 20 years after that too. But I learned a lot from him and just how I interact with kids now and how I probably interact with my kids. And so I feel as though people can affect you in really small ways, a lot of people that can help to change your perspective and help you to become better. And then there are some that are more monumental, like my father, and a lot of people talk about their father. And my father, to me, is a pretty incredible man. Very giving, very spiritual, will do anything for anybody. Financially, though, not so much. Works a 9-to-5 job, just kind of gets by and does whatever he needs to do, and provides the necessities of life for his family, But he's not Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, or, anybody that anybody would look at and say, oh, those guys are really successful, right? But in my mind, he's very successful. Very successful man, because he treats his wife like a gem and he raised great kids and serves and helps people in any capacity that they need. Literally in any capacity that they need, he will do it without hesitation. That to me is success.
Oh, yes.
And so anyways, like those examples have definitely helped to mold me. And I'm sure that there's many more people in the next 35, 40 years that I have left on this earth that will help me to also change more. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. The more we live, the more opportunities we have to meet individuals and to serve individuals. So you're absolutely right. You mentioned earlier that you are still trying to work towards a goal and you're still trying to become who you want to become. What are some things that you have right now as one of your big goals that you're trying to achieve, that you're working to move towards succeeding in?
That actually is a really good question because, it's mostly around finance, let's be honest.
Hmm.
And I've often thought about this. So usually when I drive, which I drive a decent amount being a real estate agent, so I have a lot of time to think in the cars if I'm not on the phone with someone.
Hmm.
And I've often thought, what do I really want out of this life? And it really boils back to I want a family and want experiences with them that can help me to just spend time with them and make their life easier. So my goal right now is to make my wife, because I don't have any kids yet, to make her life easier. So to do that, it's not necessarily always monetary, but monetary has a big part in it for sure. Because like you said, if you have more money, it seems like life is easier. It's not always that way though, I feel like.
Hmm.
But yeah, like definitely getting to the point where like being completely debt free. I think that's a big goal, not just consumer debt, but like having a paid off house. That's a big goal of mine. Another big goal would definitely be to be more physically fit, because I feel as though the things that you do today to help or hurt your body have a major impact in 10, 20, 30 years from now. And so that's definitely been on my mind as of late. The last thing would be to improve my knowledge. And I know these are a little surface level. I'm not like going super deep into them or like getting really specific, but knowledge, I feel like the knowledge that you gain now will help you drastically in the future, because there comes a point where, well, I shouldn't say it, but it's said that there comes a point where you don't learn anymore. Like you just learned enough and it's harder to retain later on in life. I don't really want to believe that, because I've heard statistics, and I don't have articles to reference or anything like that, but that after 26 or 27, your vocabulary doesn't go up anymore, which I think is far-fetched because my vocabulary has gone up considerably since I was 26.
I would agree.
So, yeah. And so, I think those three things, like really family first, financial, make that stability, knowledge, and take care of your body, and kind of rope that all into, and for me personally, I'm LDS, right? Or from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I know we have to kind of say the full name now.
Amen.
Yeah. There's also a lot of spiritualness that comes to all of that as well. But those are kind of big goals. Yeah.
That's great. And you're absolutely right. I think it is important. If you feel like there's a chance of there ever being an opportunity to stop learning, I mean, I personally don't think that that's the case. I've had the opportunity to see people in education learning at very many different ages, senior citizens even going back to school and going to learn, even if it's just one piece of like a trade or a focus in maybe computer technology. I mean, they're there and they're retaining and learning. So I don't think that there's ever a time, as long as you're living, that you can not learn something different. And so, no, thank you for sharing that. And for yourself too, because like you said, you have a full life to live, despite all of the fear and the pandemonium that's currently going on in our country and around the world with this coronavirus. I still think it's, like you said, important to focus on taking the one step at a time. So right now, with the place where you're at in your life, what would be the legacy that you would hope to leave on this earth, with your family, your friends, the people in your community? Like, what would be something that you would say you would really hope that they would have taken from the really wonderful experience of having you in their life?
It's a great question. I've also thought about this, and this may be a little interesting, but I want to have a huge funeral, a big one, biggest that they can fit. And the reason why is not necessarily like any pride or any recognition or anything like that for me, but it would be mostly for me to know that I affected some people in this life, that I had some part in their life, for them to feel that I'm important enough to honor me on my escape, I guess, from this mortal being. That kind of is a little bit of a driver in trying to make good relationships with people, because I want my family there. I mean, whoever's alive. I mean, I don't know who will be alive or who won't. But or I mean, who knows? Maybe I'll die on some remote island and no one will have a funeral. I don't know. Like, I don't know how.
Dear.
I know that probably won't happen.
That doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen. Yeah. But I honestly, I just I want people to feel like they're important. That's pretty much it. And if that kind of trails into that big funeral, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I just feel as though you could have all the money in the world or all the success or all the homes or land or crops or I don't even know, jewels, gems, like you could have all the material possessions that you could ever have in this world. And when you die, what are you taking with you? You're not taking any of that. That's staying here. There's no U-Haul attached to any hearse that I've ever seen in my life. And there never will be. Because when you leave this life, the only thing that you're taking with you is the knowledge that you've gained, the experiences that you've had, and the relationships that you have made as well. And that's it. So if that's all you're going to take with you, why not focus on that?
Beautifully said, my friend. Beautifully said. Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing, your experience and how you've been able to really learn and grow. And what truly is the most important things in life that we can focus on is how to be in service to other people and really just how to be patient with ourselves in this journey called life that we try to do the best at every day to the best of our ability with what we've been given and just having that positive outlook. Thank you for reminding us of that.
You're welcome. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you for a little bit. It's been fun.
Likewise, my friend. And I look forward to seeing you continue on in your success.
Good. Yeah. Well, hope so. I guess we'll find out.
Thank you for listening to Morrow's Motivational Podcast. Please join us again next time.
Wow, something is really different on the growler. Really different on the growler. Really different on the growler. Really different on the growler.